Today we are comparing two sweeteners. I didn't say artificial sweeteners because they are not artificial. Yes, allulose and monk fruit sweeteners are sweet, 0 calories, 0 glycemic index, and they won't spike your blood sugar while satisfying your sweet tooth. But how do they compare to each other? Let's jump to it. I'm Dr. Ahmet Ergin, your YouTube endocrinologist and a diabetes specialist with 10 years of clinical experience working with patients with diabetes and hormonal problems. I will also touch base on possible risks of these sweeteners actually, so make sure you watch the entire video to get the full understanding. Also, I will try to give you a good idea so you can actually choose between these two sweeteners, comparing their overall benefits versus risks. So we did a artificial sweeteners video for you before, and I left the monk fruit and allulose specifically out because I knew I was gonna make this video. They're special, they're the monk fruit and allulose, and you kept asking, how about monk fruit, how about allulose, how about monk fruit, how about allulose? Well, there you have it. I made a specific video just for that. Let's start with the monk fruit sweetener. Monk fruit is derived from monk fruit that's found in Asia most of the time, as the name applies. It's made by crushing the fruit and then drying the juice to make a concentrated powder. It contains no calories, no carbohydrates, no sugar, no nothing. Monk fruit extract is extraordinarily sweet and concentrated, up to 400 times sweeter than sugar. So it is frequently mixed with allulose or erythritol to form 1-to-1 sugar replacement. So what's the best way to utilize the monk fruit sweetener? Well, monk fruit is highly concentrated, but when coupled with allulose or erythritol, it can be used as a great substitute for sugar. So how does it taste like? It tastes like super sweet. There's no aftertaste. However, when mixed with erythritol, it may have a little bit of a cooling aftertaste. I also want to review what other potential benefits you can get from monk fruit sweetener that you cannot get with other sweeteners, including allulose. So the major component of the monk fruit sweetener is a kind of mogroside, which is known as mogroside 5. It accounts for more than 30% of the product and is responsible for sweetness. According to research, these mogrosides contain antioxidant and anti-inflammatory activities. They actually may provide health benefits as a result of these factors in studies. The mogroside have these anti-inflammation features that may actually inhibit the toxic molecules and aid in the prevention of the DNA damage. No human studies validated these so far, but at least animal studies are suggesting that. It appears to prevent the cancer development in animal studies as well. So we don't know the real mechanisms exactly, and they are not really proven in human beings, but it's better than something that can potentially cause cancer, right? So, according to one study, for example, mogrosides inhibited the development of leukemia cells. Another study discovered the strong inhibitory effects on skin cancers in mice. Because monk fruit sweetener contains no calories or carbs, of course it has no effect on your blood sugar levels at all, and it doesn't mess with your gut microbiome as well. As a result, it's a very viable option for my diabetics. So those mice that were given the extract, the monk fruit extract, actually had lower oxidative stress and the blood sugar levels were better. Even their good cholesterol, which is HDL, went up. So, I mean, that's really, really promising. I would advise increasing your HDL with the exercise instead of just relying on the monk fruit, by the way. But some of these advantages could be due to the mogrosides, the ability to promote the insulin production. Some of these advantages could be due to the mogrosides' ability to promote the insulin production in insulin cells. Isn't that amazing? However, though, because this extract is frequently combined with other sweeteners, you should carefully study those product labels before just jumping to purchase them. So, can you bake with monk fruit? It bakes like sugar when coupled with erythritol and can be used to make soft and crispy baked items. It does not, however, dissolve as well as sugar. So if you require the sugar to dissolve completely, I would recommend using powdered sugar with it, although that may not be very good for your diabetes. When coupled with allulose, it bakes very similarly though to sugar, but may not be as crisp as well. It will, however, dissolve well, unlike the erythritol combination of the monk fruit. So monk fruit and allulose actually dissolve better. So monk fruit actually tastes best in the baked products like muffins and cookies and cakes. If you are making them, make sure you are using multigrain and some nut flours to prevent the blood sugar spikes. The monk fruit also works very well in the coffee, the tea, so especially with allulose, it dissolves very well in those liquids. So powdered monk fruit with allulose is fantastic also in frostings, guys. And let's talk about the allulose. Allulose is a natural sugar that cannot be digested, thus its taste and acts like a sugar without causing blood sugar spikes. It has zero glycemic index and has net zero carbs. So the fruit, maple syrup, and other plants contain allulose. So allulose is relatively a new keto sweetener for keto fans, and it's getting a lot of popularity. It's like erythritol. It's produced by a natural fermentation process. It's not considered an artificial sweetener because it is fermented from a plant. So how does allulose prove itself scientifically? Let's look at that. Well, the good news is that the allulose travels throughout the body without being broken down. So allulose is absorbed by the small intestine and eliminated in the urine without being processed a lot. So when consumed in large amounts though, it can give you the runs, the bloating, diarrhea, and so forth. A 2015 small-scale study showed that the allulose may actually be beneficial for type 2 diabetes and obesity. So according to the experts, the allulose may assist to manage glucose levels and improve insulin resistance. And as an expert, I say amen to that. Animal studies that have been done in most of these studies shows that. So the researchers looked into, for example, whether allulose could help lower the body fat, the cholesterol, and diabetes markers in one human study, which is important. When compared to individuals who took a placebo, those who received the high dose of allulose beverages exhibited significant increases in body fat percentage and body fat mass and BMI compared to someone who did not use any of the allulose. CT scans were used by the researchers to analyze, for example, the changes in the abdominal fat area of the study participants, of course. And at the end of that research, individuals who drank the high-dose allulose drink had a substantial reduction in the total fat in that abdominal region compared to people who did not use that. In addition, the study also found that the allulose had minimal influence on fat cells in people's blood. Triglycerides, total cholesterol, low-density lipoprotein like LDL cholesterol levels remained pretty much constant across the groups. That's interesting because when you lose abdominal fat, you would expect some cholesterol changes. So I wonder why that did not happen in these subjects. The researchers also discovered no differences whatsoever in diabetes-related indicators such as fasting blood glucose. You're like, what? Their A1C did not change, their blood glucose did not change, insulin levels did not really change much. So maybe because these people were actually compensating, for example, eating more bread because they're using allulose in their coffee, etc. And that is a common problem when people use sweeteners. So replacing sugar with allulose may give a prospective benefit to people who are overweight and obese, and they may lose some weight, but they may not necessarily reflect in their diabetes outcome or their blood sugar outcome unless they are using that sweetener very carefully and they are not compensating by other foods, by other carbs, just because they are using the sweetener like allulose. So it is 70% as sweet as sugar, and when using allulose, you are needing around a little bit more than 1 1/3, and you will not see much of a difference. So how does it taste like? So allulose has very sweet with no bitterness or aftertaste, so that is a good part of allulose. And can you bake allulose? Well, Allulose is a browning agent, so it caramelizes and dissolves and does not crystallize, so that's good. It produces moisture for soft baked foods, but it's not going to give you the crispiness as opposed to erythritol, for example. So what's the application of best use of allulose? It works well in the baked items, again, like the pancakes, muffin, and soft stuff, and especially if you're using, let's say almond flour and so forth, that may be a good combination for that one-time treat that you're looking for. And powdered allulose works really well in frostings as well. It is not as sweet as sugar, so you may need to use a little bit more. So monk fruit is way sweeter than sugar, but the allulose is not as much. So guys, I know you had a lot of questions about the monk fruit and allulose. I hope this video answered your questions. Please write a comment, share, and we'll see you in the next video. Hey guys, I hope you are enjoying this channel so far, and I hope you subscribed already. If you didn't, do it. And if you did, watch this video right there. I think that will help you too.